You may be very surprised to hear that branding is, in fact, the most important area of business, in my opinion, because really, without a brand, you just have no business at all. Customers are not going to come back to you, they're not going to remember your brand, they're not going to be able to recognize your brand, and you're really just not going to be able to stand out from the crowd without a brand behind your products or services. Um, so your business is really more about what you sell or what you do. If no one knows who you are, if no one can recognize you and what you stand for and why they should care about your brand, then why would you even matter? Because there are a lot of brands out there that rely like completely just on their brand more than their actual products and services themselves. And we're going to be looking into examples of these types of businesses. Um, we're also going to be looking at famous branding fails that have happened over time where companies have rebranded and it's just blown up in their face and they've just had to rebrand back into what they were before. And there are a lot of examples of businesses doing this, just completely rebranding and everything just goes terrible, and no, they just like completely lose their entire brand identity, and it just never works in some cases, because the brand is really just the heartbeat of your company. Really, without a heartbeat, then the company is just going to die. Really. But yeah, a business's branding is more important than you might think because on the outside, your brand may seem like it consists only of elements such as logos and colors, but your brand is actually the entire identity of your business. Your brand really just gives you personality. Branding has always been a very vital part of business, but it may be more important now than ever before. With social media, consumers get exposed to new brands every day, and there's just such a huge amount of competition these days, so businesses need to go the extra mile to ensure that they stand out from the crowd, really. And to do this, businesses really need to invest in creating a strong brand that will keep people's attention. And these days, with a lot of businesses, I feel like they just completely overlook their branding and they just really don't understand how important branding is. Because the better your branding is and the more differentiated you make your brand from other brands, the more people will recognize your business and the more trust you will build with your consumers. So yeah, and by the way, like branding isn't just a logo. Like I said before, there is a lot more that goes on with branding. I mean, there's customer experience, design, mission, and emotional association. That's probably the most important one there, emotional association. It all comes down to the qualities customers attach to your business and the first impressions that you make on your customers. So that's really what it comes down to, and we're obviously going to be looking into a little bit more about what branding actually is soon. So without further ado, let's just get straight into this episode.
Welcome to the world of Market Talk. Episodes are available on YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Could you just imagine a world without brands? Like, if there was no brands, what would there be? Like, if you went to the store to buy, like, a new phone, for example, there'd be no Apple, there'd be no Samsung, no Huawei, no nothing. It would all just be like, you go to the store, you buy a phone, that's all it is. It's just a cell phone, really. It's all the same. Because there would really just be nothing to differentiate Apple with Samsung and Huawei and all that. So why would customers even care? It's all just the same thing, really. It's the same with if you went to the supermarket to buy chocolate milk, for example. If every company that manufactured chocolate milk just didn't have a brand, then it would obviously still say the company name, like it would say Meadow Fresh Incorporated, and then Anchor Chocolate Milk Company, and that kind of thing. So it would still say the name of the company, but there'd be no brand, no special packaging or anything. So like, who would even care what the brand is? If you're buying chocolate milk, it's chocolate milk, it's all the same thing, really. But the brand is really the thing that customers form an emotional attachment to. Like, the second that I see, like, that Lewis Road Creamery packaging, I know that I'm going to be getting some goddamn good chocolate milk, so I just go straight to the Lewis Road Creamery. But if there was no, like, brand with that sort of chocolate milk there, then I wouldn't care. I'd just buy probably what the cheapest chocolate milk is, really. But it's really just the same as anything. Like you go to the store and you buy a phone. What is the company that you've already formed an emotional attachment to? For me personally, it's Samsung. Like I've always used Samsung, so I'm just gonna go ahead and buy another Samsung. Because I already know that it's a good company. I've already formed an attachment to it, and they made a good impression. And I know how good of a company they are, so I've already formed customer loyalty to Samsung. So I'm just gonna go straight back to them. So really, you can just see how important branding is, and it really doesn't just go, for chocolate milk and phones. Like there's so many examples. It can be the type of car you buy. It can be, the type of dishwasher you buy. It can be the barber shop you go to. It's just anything really. You just form an attachment to a brand. And what even is branding at the end of the day? Branding is the process of creating a strong positive perception of your company and its products in your customer's mind. So there are just a lot of elements when it comes to branding. It's not just all about logos and colors. There's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes in order for a company to actually, form that bond with its customers. So, you've got obviously your logo, then there's the strategy behind your business, there's the advertising, of course, there's marketing, trust building, identity, value, design, and I could just go on and on. There's just so many areas of branding. And honestly, like, I'm not a university lecturer or anything, so I'm not going to go on too much about, what branding actually is, because if I was to do that, this would be like a 10-hour episode here. So I'm not going to like give you a whole lecture on what branding is, because if you're that interested, then go ahead and get a degree like I'm getting right now, because for those of you who have been following my podcast, you will know that I currently am studying marketing, so I know all about this sort of branding stuff here. But really, branding ultimately just sets the entire experience of for customers for your company, really. And obviously, this sort of branding thing doesn't apply to every business out there, because there are some cost leadership sort of businesses that don't really put too much effort into their brands. Like flour companies, for example. When you go to the store and you buy flour, you really just want to find the cheapest option like out there, because all you're buying is flour. There's like nothing that differentiates some types of flour with other types of flour. Like it doesn't matter what company you're buying your flour from, because it's just going to be flour. So in that sort of circumstance, you don't really need to build a brand for that, because it's just more of a cost leadership sort of situation. But in a lot of situations, like with Starbucks, for example, I always use the Starbucks example. But when you go to Starbucks, you're really just going there for the experience. Because, what's stopping you from just going to a local cafe when they literally just sell coffee as well, and probably for a cheaper price? What's stopping you from just going there? Well, it's all about the experience. And if you're a avid Starbucks consumer, then you will know that Starbucks is very quality and they care about their customers. And you've made some perceptions of Starbucks based on your previous experiences, and it's the same with why you would buy a pair of Nikes as opposed to like Kmart shoes or Walmart shoes or whatever, because you've already worn Nikes and you've been a customer of Nike before, and you know that it's going to be a quality product and there's going to be nothing wrong with it, and they're going to last well, so you're just going to go straight back to Nike. So it's all just about the tone that you set for the company, and just it's just something that customers can remember you by, really. Because when customers see that Nike tick, they know that the product they're going to get is going to be very quality, really. So you've just got to create a symbol for your company, a logo that customers can go back to, and just form an attachment to. But like I say, it's not all just about the logo. Like your business might have some colours that the customers sort of form an attachment to and recognise. You might have a slogan. You might have a particular font style. You might have a particular way of advertising, and you might just have a particular vibe about your company that you can't really explain. It all just comes down to that. That's what branding is, and so in terms of why branding is the core of any business, branding really just builds trust. Customers buy what they recognise and trust, even if it costs more. because the more a customer sort of forms a bond with your company, the more they're going to trust it, and the more they're going to trust the logo that they see, really. And you just create an emotional connection, really. And when you create an emotional connection, that equals loyalty. And in some cases, products can basically just be the exact same thing. Like, I'll go back to that Apple versus Android sort of debate there. I mean, at the end of the day, Apples and Androids are really just the same thing. They do the same thing, but they've both just got completely different vibes about them. And you can like either one. There's really no right or wrong answer. One of them isn't necessarily as good as the other. It really just comes down to what you're most used to, and the connection that you've already formed with one of the businesses, really. And me personally, I've always been an Android person, and I mean, there isn't really one sort of reason as to why I've always stuck to Android, because Apple does make good devices, I will admit that, but I've just always been an Android Samsung person, and I really just don't have any reason to switch to Apple, because at the end of the day, they just, make phone calls, text people, you've got all the same apps and everything, so, like, what's the point in switching, So it all just comes down to loyalty. You cannot build loyalty for your business if you don't have a brand that customers can form a connection to. And branding also does guide business decisions in some ways, because branding really just determines what your business actually stands for. So, I mean, if your brand stands for sustainability, for example, like, some sort of oat milk company out there, every decision that your business makes, from the packaging to the partnerships of your business, every decision has to reflect what your business stands for, like sustainability, for example. And it really just lays the foundation of the decisions in your business. If you're a cookie company, for example, if you're Oreos, you'll focus on the good taste of your cookies. Or if you're another company like Ryvita or whatever, then you'll focus more on the health sides of things. And you've really just got to figure out what your customers want and what your customers value. Build your brand around those values, and just make decisions based off those customer values. But basically now we're going to be looking into a few examples of where businesses have gone wrong in terms of branding, and why things just went so horribly, and how they actually fixed it. So basically, if we look at this example here we have got Gap, the clothing brand, of course. And so basically, they've had this same logo that we're all used to since 1990, and we're all just so used to it. We all know and love this logo. But then in October 2010, they changed it, and just completely changed the entire identity of their brand. And in my opinion, there was just absolutely nothing wrong with their previous logo. Like, we all already formed an attachment to that logo, and it's something we've learned to trust over the years. And then they just changed it to this corporate looking, like, weird, like, oversimplified thing here with it just says Gap, and then it's got like a square in the corner there. And by the way, sorry if you are listening on iHeartRadio, you can't see the video of this episode, but for those of you YouTube and Spotify listeners, you can see what I'm talking about on the screen here. But yeah, so basically this was just a very, very ugly logo. Nobody out there liked it. I mean, you could make this on Microsoft Paint. Like, it's just so oversimplified. It is absolutely insane. Not a single soul out there liked this rebrand. So literally only 6 days later, you know what Gap did? They literally just reverted back to their old logo. So they spent millions and millions of dollars on this big rebrand for no reason. And it literally only lasted 6 days, and on October the 12th, 2010, they went back to their exact same logo. So that was just a complete waste of money. But it really just taught Gap about the power of branding and customer loyalty, really. Because when customers saw this logo here, I mean, all of the previous positive connections customers had to Gap just completely went away, because it's a completely different vibe to their previous logo. I mean, their previous logo was like just a nice little, serif sort of font thing going on here. And then, I mean, their new logo literally just looked like a corporate bank logo. Like, it did not look like a clothing company logo at all. It was just absolutely terrible. But they did learn their lesson eventually, so they reverted back to their previous logo, and they've had that logo ever since. And I'm assuming they're probably never going to change it again after their previous little mishap there. So when I think of terrible rebrands, this is really the first thing that comes to mind, because nobody out there liked this at all. It was just so terrible. But another very good example of just terrible oversimplification and rebranding is the Tropicana example. So Tropicana is some sort of American orange juice company. And basically in 2009, they just completely rebranded into just a really oversimplified sort of logo here. And it's not only the logo, it's also the packaging of the orange juice. Because if you look at the image here, in the previous packaging, you've got like an orange with a straw coming out of it, and that basically signifies, that you're just drinking pure orange juice. It's literally just the juice of an orange, and it was just a very good symbol to show how pure and organic the orange juice actually is. I mean, it says down here 100% pure and natural orange juice. So it was just a really clever way of doing it, and they had a nice logo here. There was just nothing wrong with this packaging at all. But then they just completely rebranded, and they've just got this like awful packaging here, where it's just got like the word Tropicana with basically no logo at all, and then it's just got like a glass of orange juice, and it just says 100% orange, and that's literally all it is. White background, and it's just absolutely terrible. It was the same thing. Nobody liked this rebrand at all, so you know what they did? They changed their logo pretty much back to how it was before. Not exactly how it was before. They did sort of make it a little bit more simple, but definitely not as oversimplified as it was in 2009. But yeah, it was only like a year later that they just went back to pretty much how their old packaging was, because their sales just absolutely spiraled downhill, and everybody's already formed an emotional attachment to this packaging and this logo, and then they've just completely changed to this awful thing here, and it's just a completely different vibe. Like, you're literally changing the whole vibe of the company, and nobody's gonna go back to it because it's just completely different, And looking at a more current example here we have got the PayPal logo. And just last year, they completely rebranded and got rid of their core element of their brand, which is of course, the PP sort of logo they've got there for PayPal. Because without that like symbol there of the two P's overlapping each other, then what does PayPal have to differentiate their brand from other brands? I mean, literally all their new logo is literally just the word PayPal written out in some sans serif font. They literally got rid of their colors. It's not even just the logo, it's also the colors. It's just everything about the company. They just completely rebranded. It's just so awful. Because, I mean, when you go to the online checkout or whatever, you automatically just look for the that PP symbol if you always use PayPal, but now you have to completely change what you were looking for and just look for the word PayPal. I mean, that's all their logo is right now. So I don't even think that PayPal have officially changed their logo yet. I think they did say they were going to change it to this, but it hasn't actually happened yet, because if you look at the PayPal website, they've still got their old logo, so I don't actually think they're going to change it, because, yeah, the backlash of this logo change here was just absolutely awful. Nobody likes this rebrand here, so I don't actually think PayPal are going to change their logo at all, and I don't know what they're thinking. Like, why in the world would they design this logo here and just think, oh yes, our customers are going to love this logo here, look at how creative this logo is here, who in their right mind wouldn't love this logo? So I really don't know what they're thinking when they designed this logo here, but anyway, so they haven't changed it yet, so it's I think it might be fine. I think they're just going to stick to their old roots here and just use this PP logo here again. So that's good news here. Another current example here is, of course, the Jaguar rebrand. So this was just last year. So basically, here we have the old Jaguar logo, and now we've got the current Jaguar logo. And I did make a whole video on this in the past just to express my dissatisfaction with Jaguar. Because I mean, I don't even want to look at this anymore, like this is just so terrible. I mean, when they rebranded from this cool, like, logo with a stretched out font and an actual Jaguar there, and it's all, aggressive looking, when they changed from that to this oversimplified, lowercase, just weird pink thing here, what in their right minds did they think that was going to happen? I mean, they're literally just alienating their entire current, like, customer base. I mean, it's not just the logo, they're also going fully electric. Like, they're literally just going to stop manufacturing all of their V8s and all of their current models, and they're just ditching all of that, and they're literally just going to go fully electric and just release all of these new cars that are all electric, and they're just completely getting rid of combustion engines, which is literally what their entire customer base, has at the moment. Like, I'm going to tell you right now, Jaguar customers are not just going to switch over from, combustion engines like V8s to electric cars. Like, that's not going to happen. Jaguar has they just put no consideration into what their target customers actually want at all. I mean, nobody wants this. They're just going to completely lose their current customer base, and, the Jaguar customers are just not going to go back to Jaguar again. They're probably just going to go to, like, BMW or something, because they just don't want electric cars. Because I do know a lot of Jaguar owners out there, and a lot of them are just not fans of electric cars out there. So when Jaguar rebranded into this fully electric, like, Barbie-like sort of logo here and brand here, they're really just completely alienating a lot of their customers. So I don't know what they were thinking with this rebrand here. It was just an awful decision. They just completely changed the entire vibe of their company. They might as well have just renamed their company at this point, because this is just completely different what we're looking at here. It's like literally like polar opposites. It's completely insane. I don't even want to look at this anymore, to be honest. So let's just move on to Vodafone here. So here we have a New Zealand example. And basically what happened here is we used to have Vodafone, our telecommunications company, along with, Spark and 2 Degrees. Vodafone was one of them. And then in 2022, they rebranded into One NZ. So not only did they change their logo and entire corporate identity, they also renamed themselves to One.NZ. And in my personal opinion, I really wasn't too big of a fan of this when it first sort of happened, because we're all just so used to saying Vodafone, and we're all just so used to this logo here. But then they completely changed the entire vibe of their company and just went to One.NZ. So no longer are we saying Vodafone, we're now saying One.NZ. So it's completely different, a completely different sort of experience they've created. And like I say, at first I wasn't really too big of a fan of it. I'm pretty sure the reason that they did rebrand, like rename themselves, was some sort of financial reason. I'm not entirely sure the reasons behind it. But yeah, they rebranded into One NZ, and I'm sort of coming around to it because I am now getting a bit more used to what the brand is. And I mean, they're still doing the same thing. I am still a One NZ customer. Like, it wasn't something that made me want to, like, change to 2 Degrees or whatever. I am still with Vodafone, or One NZ, I should say, and I have been for pretty much like my whole life, really. So I'm still with One NZ. I wasn't a fan of it at first, but it's sort of just something I've learned to get used to, really. I mean, they're still doing the same thing, so who really cares at the end of the day? But for a while there, it did take a while to get used to, like, instead of saying Vodafone, saying One NZ, So I've come around to it eventually, but, it's definitely something that took a while to get used to. I mean, it's like a completely different company, really. But even like nowadays, I often catch myself still saying Vodafone because it's just what I'm used to, you know. So sometimes I do accidentally still say Vodafone, even though it is 1NZ these days, and it's like 3 years ago since they rebranded. But you know, in some cases, you really just can't help it. You know, it's just you form an attachment to a specific company, and then they just completely change everything, and it's like, what do they expect? You know. So those were a few examples of some companies that just completely, you know, spiraled out of control with their rebrands and just completely alienated their customers and just, you know, in some cases had to go back to how they were before. And it definitely does happen. But I think, you know, companies are realizing that in some cases there's just really no need to rebrand at all because, like I say, customers form attachments to brands, really. And at the end of the day, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's my motto there. And I mean, there are some really good examples of companies that just understand what branding is and understand the consequences of changing their brand unnecessarily. So Nike, for example, they've always had this sort of Nike swoosh, and they've just never changed it because they understand how important branding is and the sorts of attachments that customers form with, you know, the Nike swoosh symbol. So they've understood that, and over the years they've been very good with their brand, you know. Because if Nike just completely rebranded nowadays, like, it just would not be good. It would completely blow up in their face because, you know, we're all just so used to that Nike swoosh. We couldn't imagine Nike being anything else, really. And also Apple. Apple is another very good example of a company that puts a lot of effort into their branding. And you know, I'm not an Apple consumer at all. Like I say, I've always been a Samsung sort of guy, but I will give credit where credit is due. Apple has always been very good with their branding. Their brand has slightly changed over the years, you know, just the overall style of their brand. Like, obviously, for a while there, they had that whole skeuomorphism sort of thing going on there with the glossy sort of 3D textures. And then over time, it sort of just changed into this more flat design we're seeing now. And it is also changing back into a more glassy sort of design, but that's a topic for another episode there. But over the years, they have sort of stuck to the same logo all the way since 1977. They've really just stuck to the same logo, and it's just another example of a company that understands about the emotional attachment that customers attach to the symbol, you know. So if it ain't broke, just don't fix it. There we go again. So Apple have always been very good at understanding their customers and understanding current trends and then adapting their business to those trends and not just completely rebranding and just changing their entire identity because of it. So that's another example there. And the final example of a good company that understands branding is, of course, Starbucks, which I did mention before, and I'll just briefly go over it again. When you go to Starbucks, you don't really go just for the coffee, you go more for the experience, really. I've already gone over that, but Starbucks is very good at recognizing you know, how important branding is, because over the years, as you can see, their logo has sort of gotten a little bit more simple, but over the years, they've sort of just stuck to the same sort of vibe and the same rough idea of their logo, because it's something that customers form an attachment to. I cannot say that enough, really. So I'm pretty sure that's really everything I wanted to go over in this episode today. So just let me know your thoughts on this episode. What do you think about branding? Do you agree that it is the most important area of business? Let me know. I hope you guys did learn something about branding in this episode today. Just let me know your feedback in the comments. And without further ado, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye.
Market Talk is a production of TeamTMS. For more episodes of Market Talk just like this one, visit us on YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for listening.